Okay, guys, I'm back with part two of Jeffrey Epstein. Sorry, my glasses have a lot of glare, but just work with me. So, when we left off, I was talking about his first jail stint, whatever. But what I did mention was a lot of people didn't know how Jeffrey Epstein made his money. So, after working at the investment bank Bear Stearns in the early 1980s, he founded his own firm, J. Epstein Company, in 1982, advertising his services for those with assets worth more than $1 billion. So this guy didn't have a lot of experience, but he advertised to people that had over $1 billion that he could manage, which, I don't know, he's pretty confident, I guess, and was soon managing billions of dollars in client assets. By 1992, he owned the largest private residence in Manhattan, which is the residence he has when he passed. If you want to believe he died, whatever. We'll get into that. But for tax purposes, he has run his business from the island of St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands since at least 1996. And near that island, he owns the island of Little St. James. You know, Pedo Island, Orgy Island. So that island is also home to Epstein's foundation, that Jeffrey Epstein Foundation, best known for donating $6.5 million to Harvard for the establishment of mathematical biology and evolutionary dynamics program. He is described by Harvard alumni as brilliant and one of the most pleasant philanthropists. So there's a little bit of his background, but they still can't figure out how he made all his money. So now we're going to jump right after he got out of jail for 13 months. And also, I thought if you have more than a year and a day, you have to go to prison, not jail. So I don't know how he swung that, because I think with jail, he was safer than if he is in prison. So I was asking Justin about that. It's like always a year and a day, you go to prison. But if it's a year or under, you go to jail. I don't know. So I started thinking about that afterwards, and it's like, why did he go to jail? Why wasn't he in prison? I don't know. So even after financier and accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein served a 13-month jail sentence, well, he slept in jail pretty much. Like, that's pretty much the extent of his jail sentence. And a year under house arrest for his 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from victims as young as 12 years old. But Hollywood's elite never shunned the billionaire. That baffles me. They never shunned him. Like, oh, you're a pedophile. Like, peace out. No. So Epstein, who at the time faced up to 45 years in prison for sex trafficking minors, was treated in celebrity circles as if he never committed a crime, according to the Hollywood Reporter. So it kind of shows you the kind of circles he ran in, and in Hollywood, what's going on in Hollywood, along with politics and so on. So in 2010, film publicist and New York City power broker Peggy Siegel reportedly organized a dinner party for Prince Andrew at Epstein's Manhattan mansion. In attendance were Katie Couric, Charlie Rose, Woody Allen. I mean, if you know anything about Woody Allen, of course, like, they'd be buddies. Chelsea Handler, and George Stephanopoulos. So, okay. Okay, as Epstein pal Harvey Weinstein, they were friends. And also, Epstein was pals with Kevin Spacey. And you know, probably almost exactly 2 years ago, Weinstein was outed. Same with Kevin Spacey, as being pedophiles, rapists, whatever. So he ran in that circle. So Weinstein was being drummed out of the public life in the wake of the Me Too movement in 2017. Epstein was living it up at the Gotham Awards that November. So his buddies are getting thrown under the bus, but he's living it up because he's still kind of flying under the radar. So in 2014, Epstein's assistant, alleged co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, I think it's pronounced Ghislaine, looks like Ghislaine, but pretty sure it's Ghislaine Maxwell, who was accused of recruiting some of Epstein's young victims and of taking part in their abuse, is said by writer Vicky Ward to have been protecting Epstein for over a decade. And if you look, she's also in hiding somewhere right now because she doesn't want to be found. So in 2015, Gawker published a copy of Epstein's address book, which contained a slew of celebs, politicos, and fellow high-profile wealthy people. So he knew a lot of people, like very wealthy people, elite, celebrities, politicians. It was said that Epstein was the most connected person that he was like a connector. He'd connect people to other people. So, okay. How he got his Manhattan mansion that's worth $77 million. Because there's really no paper trail saying how he got that. Like, he didn't pay for it, or it's really hard to find out how he obtained that mansion. So, there's rumors how Leslie Wexner either gave him the biggest townhouse in Manhattan or sold it to him for $1. It's a $77 million mansion. So, if he sold it for him for $1, why? I mean, that's weird. Did Epstein do a lot of favors for Wexner and he figured he'd make it up for, selling him a $77 million house for $1? I don't know. So, who is Leslie Wexner? He is the CEO of L Brands Corporations, formerly known as Limited Brands. Over the years, Wexner built a retailing and marketing conglomerate that currently includes Victoria's Secret, Pink, Bath & Body Works, the White Barn Candle Company, and more. And then previous brands that were spun off include Lane Bryant, Abercrombie & Fitch, The Limited, Express, and more. So, Wexner had a close relationship with Epstein, who managed his financial assets. Wexner, I believe it said his net worth is like $4.4 billion, so he's a multi-billionaire. And the two parted in 2008 when Epstein went to jail. Wexner was believed to be the primary source of Epstein's wealth. So in August 2019, following Epstein's second incarceration, and prior to his death, Wexner addressed the Wexner Foundation by letter, delivering a detailed account of his dealings with Epstein, stating that the former financial advisor had misappropriated vast sums of money from Wexner and his family. So whether that's true, I don't know. He could just be trying to cover his ass. I don't know. Because, let's see. When Epstein got arrested in July, people were wondering who he'd turn on because he has a little black book. Everyone knows that. That has a lot of wealthy, powerful men in it all over the world. So Epstein would have his girls basically do acts on these men while he'd get it on camera. Because if they raided his Manhattan house, mansion, townhouse, whatever you want to call it, there's tons of hidden cameras. And he'd catch these acts on cameras, he'd record it, and he would make copies of the footage and use it for blackmail if necessary and label the footage, and he'd put it in a safe. So I'm wondering, what are they going to do with that? Since he's dead, are they going to continue that and go after the other sickos that are still going around doing this, or are they just going to act like nothing happened? That's my big curiosity that I'm still trying to figure out. But that'll be for part 3. Like, I'm just getting into the horrors of Jeffrey Epstein. So locals say Epstein was flying in underage girls long after his conviction for sex crimes, and authorities did nothing to stop him, which is so messed up. Usually, when you're a convicted sex offender, you should be watched, especially if you're flying in tons of underage girls. That's like a big red flag. Like, and then one of the employees, it was like he was flaunting it, says an employee at the airstrip on St. Thomas, because they would fly to St. Thomas and then they'd take a ferry to his island, Little St. James. But it was said that he always tipped very well, so everyone overlooked it. Which, so sad when money overpowers morals. So 2 employees who worked on the local airstrip on St. Thomas tell Vanity Fair that they witnessed Epstein boarding his private plane on multiple occasions in the company of girls who appeared to be under the age of consent. Between January 2018 and June 2019, previously published flight records show that the jets were airborne at least 1 out of every 3 days. That's a lot. They stopped all over the world, sometimes for only a few hours at a time. Paris, London, Slovakia, Mexico, Morocco. When they left St. Thomas, employees say they returned to the airports near Epstein's homes in Palm Beach and New York City. On multiple occasions, I saw Epstein exit his helicopter, stand on the tarmac in full view of my tower, and board his private jet with children, female children, says a former air traffic controller at the airstrip who asked to remain anonymous. One incident in particular really stands out in my mind because the girls were just so young. They couldn't have been over 16. Epstein looked very angry and hurled his jacket at one of them. They're also carrying shopping bags from stores not on the island. I remember thinking, where in the world have they been shopping? Another employee at the airstrip says Epstein would land at St. Thomas twice a month on average. There would be girls that looked like they could have been in high school. They looked very young. They're always wearing college sweatshirts. It seemed like camouflage. That's the best way to put it. I mean, earlier I said he donated $6.5 million to Harvard. I'm sure they could have thrown in some Harvard sweatshirts for him. Like, here you go. Put them on. I don't know. It's not hard to buy college sweatshirts, like, for real. Like, my last video, I was wearing a Minnesota Gophers hoodie, which is U of M. I didn't go to U of M, but I have a hoodie. So, wearing a college hoodie means jack shit. So, I don't know. It just, really, you think wearing, like, a college hoodie is, I don't know, just stupid. Every time he landed or took off, it's always brought up. We'd always be joking, how many kids are on board this time? But the employee also says he felt pure disgust, calling it absolutely insane. That convicted sex offender was able to move around so openly in the era of the Me Too movement. I could see him with my own eyes. I compared it to seeing a serial killer in broad daylight. I call it the face of evil. So if these people are really disgusted, it's like, why didn't they say anything? Why didn't they report it to authorities? I mean, I don't get it. Epstein apparently made no attempt to hide his travels with young girls. The airstrip in St. Thomas sits in plain sight of a central highway and nearby parking lot to the University of the Virgin Islands, provides a complete view of the tarmac and almost every aircraft on the ground. When he's home on Little St. James, Epstein's plane was always parked right in front of the control tower. So he didn't make any effort to hide it. He didn't care. But, okay, lawyers for Epstein, who have pleaded not guilty to the charges of sex trafficking, say he flatly denies any illegal involvement with underage women. But those on the island who witnessed Epstein in action remained shocked that a convicted pedophile could brazenly continue to travel to and from the United States accompanied by young girls. My colleagues and I definitely talked about how we didn't understand how the guy was still allowed to be around children. We didn't say anything because we figured law enforcement was doing their job. I have to say that is regrettable, but we really didn't know who to tell or if anyone really cared. And that's really sad that it's like this guy, this caliber, just got away in like broad daylight. I mean, okay, so his 2019 indictment, because I'm just working, trying to like chronological order. So on July 8th, federal prosecutors charged Epstein with 1 count of sex trafficking of a minor and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. Per the indictment, over the course of many years, Epstein sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls at his homes in Manhattan and Palm Beach, among other locations. The document also noted that in order to maintain and increase the supply of victims, Epstein also paid certain of his victims to recruit additional girls to be similarly abused. The prosecution alleged that he sexually assaulted girls as young as 14, but I also saw reports as young as 12, so like really young girls. And I discussed this like in the previous video. His one ambition he discussed was to impregnate multiple women, thereby spreading his DNA. One account claimed his plan was for 20 women to bear his children, and that his ranch in New Mexico would be a base for his operation. This may have been part of his interest in transhumanism, the study of how to improve the human population through technologies like genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. That's just oh, I couldn't imagine having Epstein's baby. But another thing I heard is that there's underground tunnels to his ranch in New Mexico where government officials, elite, the wealthy can go basically right to his New Mexican ranch without being seen because they're underground. That's what I read. Don't quote me because who knows, who can be for sure? I mean, unless you went down that tunnel yourself, it's like, that's just icky. Okay, and then in my previous video, I mentioned how he had ties to Donald Trump, other people. Well, I found this quote from Donald Trump in 2002. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Of course, now Trump, says he has no idea what Jeffrey was doing. He's cut ties with him years ago. Whatever. That's a pattern you'll see with these friends, affiliates, whatever. And then former President Bill Clinton issued a public statement acknowledging that he had ridden on Epstein's private plane, but that he was unaware of Epstein's criminal activity. All these people are unaware of his criminal activity, but in 2008, he went to jail for being a pedophile. I mean, are they that oblivious, that stupid, or they want us to think that they're that stupid? I don't know. So President Clinton knows nothing about the terrible crimes Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to in Florida some years ago, or those which he has been recently charged in New York, reads the statement from a Clinton spokesperson. I call bullshit. In 2002 and 2003, President Clinton took a total of 4 trips on Epstein's airplane, 1 to Europe, 1 to Asia, and 2 to Africa, which includes stops in connection with the work of the Clinton Foundation. Then it also came out that on a flight log, President Bill Clinton went to Pedo Island a total of 27 times. So you have to think he knows what's going on. And then Hillary, I believe, she went to Pedo Island 4 or 6 times. I think the very least 4. It's one of those numbers, but Hillary knew what was going on. Allegedly. So, at one point, Epstein also notably had ties to Queen Elizabeth's son, Prince Andrew. The extent of their relationship is somewhat unclear, but they were spotted walking together in Central Park in late 2010. At that point, he was already a convicted sex offender. So, like I said, a lot of these people, they claim to know him, but then they don't know of the crimes he committed or that he was in jail for 13 months for being a pedophile. I call bullshit. So, here's the official statement from Prince Andrew. The Duke of York has been appalled by the recent reports of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes. His Royal Highness deplores the exploitation of any human being, and the suggestion he would condone, participate in, or encourage any such behavior is abhorrent. So, he claims that he didn't know what was going on either, which, again, I call bullshit. I just keep calling bullshit. So, during the search of his townhouse, investigators seized photographs of nude underage girls. Federal prosecutors said the case would involve 1 million pages of discovery, including evidence from his Manhattan mansion. This dude had hidden cameras everywhere in that mansion. And like I said, he'd record the footage, label it, and then put it in his safe later on for blackmail. And that plays a key part in the next part that I'm going to get into, the third part of the Epstein series. But just know he had a lot of footage and a lot of blackmail. And they would have liked the trial to begin in June 2020, but that's not happening. So on July 18th, Epstein was denied bail. He had previously said he was willing to post $100 million bail, per the New York Times. Prosecutors argued that Epstein's vast wealth, said it to be more than $500 million, would make it possible for him to flee the country if he were not held in jail, which I agree. He probably would have fled the country. Wouldn't be hard for him to do because he knows people all over the world. He has private planes. It would not be hard for this man to just disappear. So, Epstein's death effectively ends the criminal case, but several of his alleged victims have started to sue his estate, which is worth roughly $600 million. And I really hope they get something from this because I feel so bad for the victims. That the victims in the 2008 case, that they never got their day in court because it was sealed. He got a deal of a lifetime. They never got to say their side of the story. They never got to testify against him, to look him in the eye and basically tell him what a piece of shit he is. And then for all the victims in this case, when I found out that he was dead, I called my mom crying because I felt so bad for these women that they will not have their day in court because this piece of shit either killed himself, was murdered, or he's alive and well somewhere, chilling somewhere. I don't know. Like I said, we'll get to that in part 3. But my heart goes out to him. So, here's the FBI official statement. On Saturday, August 10th, 2019, at approximately 6:30 a.m., inmate Jeffrey Edward Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell in the special housing unit from an apparent suicide at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City, New York. Life-saving measures were initiated immediately by responding staff. Staff requested emergency medical services, and life-saving efforts continued. Mr. Epstein was transported by EMS to a local hospital for treatment of life-threatening injuries, and subsequently pronounced dead by hospital staff. The FBI is investigating the incident. I really don't think they're gonna, I don't know. I really hope they look further into all the crap that they found raiding Epstein's place, the island, the Manhattan mansion, because other people, it's still going to continue. whether Epstein's around or not. And then the autopsy. Jeffrey Epstein autopsy results show he hanged himself in suicide. The New York City Chief Medical Examiner's determination refutes conspiracy theories that he may have been murdered. I think they just don't want to entertain any possibility that it can be anything but suicide. Epstein's death had set off a wave of unfounded conspiracy theories as people speculated online that he might have been killed to keep him from providing information to prosecutors about others in his social circle, including President Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and Prince Andrew. But the chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, ruled out foul play. She released a terse statement saying that after an autopsy and a careful review of all investigative information, she had determined the cause was hanging by suicide. So this is pretty much the end of this part. The next part will be the theories. Was it really suicide? Was it murder? Or is he alive and well, chilling out in Tel Aviv? I've read some crazy shit on this guy, and I just want to be over Epstein. I'm so sick of this guy. He literally makes me sick. Just reading all this stuff about him, and just, I don't know. Justin's like, when he sees me on the laptop, he's like, are you still looking into that pedophile Epstein? I'm like, yeah. Because it's like, I've done so much reading on him that it's sick. So anyway, part 3 will be the conspiracies. And again, I want to know what you guys think about what I just stated, and then if you think it's suicide, murder, or if he somehow had so much dirt on people that he somehow got people to, because I read that he did a lot of favors for people, and he was kind of expecting the favors to be returned when he was in jail, like jailbreak me. So I don't know. And like I said, it gets crazy, but that's for part 3. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and have a good one, guys.